Welcome to Polk Place. I'm Brian Lacey, and joining me in studio from Peace River Center, it's Tiffany Frischie. She is the Director of Children's Services at Peace River Center. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about, for those that may not know, what exactly is Peace River Center and what do they offer to the Polk County community?
Yeah, so Peace River Center is a nonprofit community mental health agency. We serve the Tri-County area, Hardy, Polk, and Highlands County, and we do a lot of things. We have inpatient services. We operate 2 inpatient facilities, one in Bartow, one in Lakeland. We have outpatient offices. We provide substance use support. We have community-based services for adults and kids. We operate a group home. We have 2 domestic violence shelters. We have an entire department dedicated to survivors of sexual assault. Lots of services to support the community, and we're very happy to be here.
So as the Director of Children's Services, what do you do?
Oh, it's my favorite.
Getting excited there.
Yeah, so when we talk about children's services, services are provided on a spectrum, right? From least intensive to most intensive. And so we have office-based support where we can meet with your child in the office, once a week, once every other week. We provide group therapy that can take place in our offices or at schools. We have intensive in-home support where we can have a therapist go out to your home and provide intensive family and individual therapy. We couple that with children's targeted case management to identify any stressors that might be getting in the way of making therapeutic gains. And then we have our intensive CAT team, our community action treatment team. It's a wraparound model. We have a therapist and a mentor and a case manager and a meds provider, and they wrap around that family to provide support to keep that family in their community of care, to prevent or to limit the risk of out-of-home placement. We also have a very special program called Home to Stay. And we work with reunification. So when a child has been removed from the home and it's time for them to come back, or if we have families that are at risk of the child being removed from the home Home to Stay care managers can go in and provide intensive parenting support to help keep that family together.
Tiffany, state the obvious. Talk about the importance of having this program for the residents, for the children of Polk County, and why it's such a valuable asset to the community.
Sure. So we know that children grow up to be adults, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can give kids the help that they need when they're younger, we are able to strengthen that resilience and strengthen that support. And the great thing about working with families is that if you work with a child, you work with their family, right? And so you're able to go in and completely change a family system. Maybe there's a situation to where there's a generational cycle of trauma or a generational cycle of unhealthy behavior, and you don't know better until you know better, all right? You don't know what you don't know, and if you were able to go in and support that family and bring them to a place to where they experience healing and restoration, it changes the entire family system, and that has long-lasting effects, not only for the child, but for their siblings, for their caregivers, for everybody involved.
Well, with the calendar changing and school starting back, a word that you said was stressors. Mm-hmm. And whether they realize it or not, school starting back for a child can be a stressor. Let's talk about some of the things that we can do to combat these stressors. Let's talk about maybe a new schedule, mm-hmm. per se. Let's talk a little bit about that and what parents and the children can do to alleviate these problems.
Yes, so time spent in preparation is never wasted. And so whenever we're talking about going back to school, that affects a lot of things. It affects eating and sleeping and waking up, and it can be very, very stressful when you start something new. So we encourage our caregivers a week before school starts, as early as you can, start implementing that new sleep schedule. Have the kids start going to bed at the time that they would go to bed during a school night. Have them start waking up the time that they would wake up. That way, the night before school, when you're already anxious and nervous and excited, you're able to have a good night's sleep because your body's already acclimated to that new schedule. And when you wake up, you're waking up refreshed and energized because you're well rested, because your body knows, because you've had a chance to get in touch with your new normal, which is going to be, for a very long time as the school year gets started. And it's probably a lot different than what the summer looked like.
One of the things that we learn as an adult is communication is the key to mm-hmm. all success. Talk about communication with your children and what it can do to avoid problems.
Yeah, so I have an 8-year-old going into 3rd grade, and I have a 5-year-old starting kindergarten. And what we've already started doing is talking about, what is this going to look like? You know, what's it going to look like going back to school? And for my 5-year-old going to school for the first time, let's talk about what it means to wear your backpack, what it means to wake up early, you know, pack your lunch. What does it mean to sit in a classroom, you know, and, you know, be around other people that you've never met before? And so I think spending that time about communicating expectations, communicating what to expect, it can really alleviate a lot of stress and anxiety that happen anytime there's a big change. The other thing that we really encourage is talking about what sounds scary to you as you go back to school, because we know that anxiety and depression really spike when the school year starts for a lot of people, and having that time to talk through, well, what might you feel? And when you feel these ways, you know, who are the people at school that you can reach out to for support? Who are the people at home that you can talk to? So we've already communicated a plan, so when those feelings start to feel big, the kid knows what to expect and they have that structure to fall back on.
Now we've talked a new schedule, we've talked communications. Let's talk coping skills and self-care if we could.
Sure. So what we find to be true, I think for any of us, when you have a change, it takes time to adjust to that change, right? And so for kids, we see a lot of times behaviors or moodiness or just being tired when school starts back. And so I think it's important as parents to have that grace of knowing that we have these little kids and we have these teenagers that may not understand how they're feeling. They may not understand all the changes that are happening. And so giving them that safe space at home to where they can kind of process out their day, where they can decompress, and knowing there might be some changes in mood. And instead of, you know, being alarmed, knowing they're acclimating, they're adjusting, and one of the best things that we can do is model our own self-care. Good sleep practices, good nutrition, good communication, talking about how we feel. And I think as caregivers, a lot of times, you know, we take care of our kids, but we forget that it's just as important to take care of ourselves, and our kids see what we're doing. And if we model self-care, and if we model that it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to talk about our feelings, then our kids will be able to do the same.
And last but not least, as a parent, our job, emotional support. And sometimes when we can't give that emotional support, we have to reach out, and you guys have a way for us to reach out. So talk both of those if we would.
Sure. So Peace River Center operates a 24/7 emotional support and crisis line. And one of the great things about it is that there's a live person, you know, answering that phone. When you are in crisis, you can call. If you're not in crisis, but you need guidance or direction, you can call anytime, day or night. The number is 863-519-3744, and they can connect you to next steps. And I love that we have that available, because sometimes people don't know, how do I get started? You know, what do I do next? And if you don't know, call that number and they can help guide you to the next steps.
Well, Tiffany, I had a blast doing this, and any time that you want to come back in and talk about anything that Peace River has to offer to our community, come back in and talk to me again, will you please?
Thank you so much. I'd love to.
Peace River Center's Children's Services wants you to know there are resources available, including a 24-hour emotional support crisis line. Now that number is 863-519-3744. Or if you need more information on other programs that they have to offer, check them out on the web at peacerivercenter.org.